In today's video, I'm going to share with you how you can begin to use tarot in your spellcraft and rituals and in your magical practice. So if you're interested to discover some new ways that you can practice with your tarot decks, then do keep on watching. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me for today's video. I hope that you are well and safe. In today's video, I want to talk about something that I really enjoy, but it's not talked about all that often, I think, on social media. And I think it's interesting because there's a lot of interest in tarot and the occult, and there's a lot of interest in witchcraft and spells and magic, etc. And a lot of these circles overlap, and also the practices do overlap. So for a while I wanted to share a video about how you can use your tarot decks in your magical practice, incorporate them more into your spellcraft and ritual, and use them in visualization techniques, etc. And a lot of this is probably going to be something that a lot of you already do, especially those of you within the community who I talk to a lot. So do bear that in mind, that some of this information you may already be familiar with, but those of you who are newer to the practice or who have never tried incorporating spellcraft and tarot before, hopefully there'll be something of interest here for you. So first of all, what is tarot? And this is a video in itself, so I'm not going to go into depth in this, but if you're new to working with cards, there is a distinct difference between tarot and oracle. There are lots of videos about that on YouTube already. I may do one in the future, but essentially for the purposes of this video, I'm discussing a tarot deck like the Rider-Waite-Smith tarot deck. This is the 1909 art restoration deck. It's a facsimile created of the Rider-Waite tarot. So the Rider-Waite-Smith tarot deck was created by Arthur Edward Waite, illustrated by Pamela Comyn Smith, originally published by Rider. So this is a beautiful replication of the 1909 deck. There's a few extra cards, and I rarely use this in my practice. Sometimes I shuffle with it and get it out because the cardstock is absolutely beautiful, but for my day-to-day I tend to use my Centennial. But the cardstock is absolutely stunning, and the tones are beautiful, the line work is stunning. I absolutely love this deck so much, and I think it's really special, especially with the roses and lilies. So this is the standard Rider-Waite-Smith tarot deck, and if you're new to tarot, this is probably the deck that has been recommended to you, that you've seen in your metaphysical shops, that a lot of the imagery is drawn from in any tarot books you might read. So I do personally think this is a great place to start, and especially for spell work, I think this is a really potent deck to use, not only for beginners but also for seasoned practitioners. I feel like because this is the most popular tarot deck, arguably, you know, with the Thoth sort of coming close to that. The Thoth is Aleister Crowley's tarot deck, which came out of the same system, the Golden Dawn system, so they are similar but there are differences. The Rider-Waite-Smith deck is arguably the most popular tarot deck, and the amount of collective energy around these images, around these archetypes, within both the major and minor arcana, and I would get into that, but this video will be so long if I do, so I will make some more tarot videos, and there are other tarot videos of course that you can learn more about the tarot deck from. But for the purposes of this video, I do want to discuss using a tarot deck, and I'm mostly going to be referring to this deck because I feel that it has such power behind it and the archetypes are so well known. Of course, if you are more of a seasoned practitioner and you use lots of different decks, and there's lots of people in the community I know who do, so if you have a deck that you prefer to use, by all means, but I do feel like there's just something about this deck that is just so powerful because of those potent images that have been, you know, referenced and understood and dreamt about and seen and depicted for so long. And you know how many decks have come out that are Rider-Waite-Smith clones, you know. So the archetypal energy is there, the symbolism is there. There is nothing in any of these cards that is there by chance, you know, everything has a meaning, everything. And so for that reason I feel like they're really potent to use for spellcraft, for magic. So I do also want to state that whilst a lot of witches and those who practice magic do use tarot, it isn't witchcraft in itself. It is a form of divination, and it can be used in spellcraft and witchcraft, but it also is its own separate thing. So that's what I mean when I say they sort of come together, and for me they very much do. And so I do feel that it's part of my witchcraft practice when I am using the tarot, but that is my personal practice. But I would make a distinction between performing a tarot reading and performing a spell. Unless I was performing a spell or a ritual with a tarot reading within it. I would also consider performing a tarot reading prior to spellcraft to be separate from spellcraft with tarot, if that makes sense at all. I feel like a lot of the lines are blurred very much, and so I don't think that there's any hard and fast rules. It's just how it works for you in your mind and how it works for you in your practice. So go with what works for you. But so the techniques that I'm going to be discussing here don't really go into traditional ways to work with the cards so much. Not so much spreads or spread prompts or spread positions or anything like that. So again, that's another video for another day. Another aspect I want to briefly touch on is what a spell is, and essentially a spell is a way to direct energy towards a specific intention, and there are various steps that go into crafting a successful spell. And again, I'm not going to go so much into depth with that here, but what you want to do is make sure you've got a clear intention and a plan for the kind of spell that you want to do, and it's nice to have your spell reflective of whatever intention it is. So if you want to perform a spell that is to do with love, romance, you could use water, the element of water, which corresponds to love and feelings, emotions, etc. So those are just some ideas. You also want to think about protection and protecting your space and yourself, especially if you're casting certain kinds of spells. I mean, some people don't cast circles at all, others do. Essentially, circles are really, really beautiful ways to contain your energy and contain your space. It's a liminal space outside of reality, and it serves as a really nice portal to shift into a spell work. It also protects yourself and your spells against any malevolent energy or presences or anything stagnant or just weird or sticky coming in and bothering your working. So do consider that, and of course having protections in general around your space and around yourself is really, really key and important. You also want to be sure that you are practicing your energy work, so you want to be grounding and centering your energy. I like to center my energy, ground, I ask Mother Earth to transmute any energies that aren't serving me, and I ask to reabsorb light energy from the earth and to bring in that positivity and, you know, feelings of joy and love and peace back into my body. So, but I do always ask permission. That's just something that I do in my practice. That is something that I do on the go as well as within meditation, and grounding and centering is a really important practice. You want to be doing that. You also want to be cleansing your space and yourself. You might want to center and ground and center again, and then cleanse and then ground and center again. It might sound like rather an intense process, but it makes sense in my head because of what is going on for me. So I feel like I very much need to energetically cleanse myself as well as physically cleanse myself and my space before I am ready in that space, and then once again before I go into that kind of work again, I will ground and center again. So it's kind of a process, and to be honest, I'm grounding and centering several times throughout a day anyway. It becomes sort of second nature to you, but again, if spell work is new to you, these are things that you need to be considering before you sort of just embark on a spell. You want to have a clear intention of what you want to manifest. You don't need to be so specific, but how is a really, really important thing. So you might have a goal or an intention, but you also need a target for that to stick. So it's about where you're sending energy, and then of course you need to be gathering that energy, drawing up energy, and raising energy through dance, through chant, through rhythmic drumming, through meditation, through grounding, etc. There's a number of ways to raise energy effectively, and you can also do this with others, but you want to be raising energy and then you want to be channeling the energy towards the target and releasing it. You also want to have a good knowledge of the cards, and you don't need to know them off by heart. If you have a book, a really good book, that's a wonderful place to start. So I will probably do a video on tarot books that I would recommend for beginners soon, but yeah, I think just get yourself a good tarot book. That's a really good place to start if you don't know the meanings of all the cards yet. But you do want to make sure that you are using cards that are sort of correct for your situation, and you know that might be quite a nuanced situation as well, so you can adapt and use a few more cards or a few less cards depending on your situation. So we've talked about setting up our space, we've talked about cleansing, we've talked about grounding and centering and setting our intention, having a target, raising energy, etc. We need all of these things for a successful spell, and I've really sort of quickly rushed through the elements that you need but not really explain how you need to go about casting a spell, and that's for another video as well. So for the purposes of this video, we're sort of assuming that those are kind of done, but I did want to mention them in case, you know, you are new to spellwork and this is something you haven't really explored before. So those are places, if you are new to spellwork, definitely explore those areas first before you continue. So there are various different types of spells that you can cast using tarot decks. The reason why I love tarot for spellcraft is because it's almost like you've got a little spell book in itself. Like, you have a collection of archetypal energies of people, places, times, spaces, situations, circumstances, all manner of events. And it's like they're so universal, they run the gamut, and it is the hero's journey. You know, if you have explored Joseph Campbell's work, you'll understand what I'm talking about, and anything about archetypes and Carl Jung, you'll understand this kind of archetypal energy, the journey of the Fool from key 0 in the minor arcana to key 21. So it goes through this story of a hero's journey, essentially. And so using the major arcana and the minor arcana, you can map out any situation. So not only are they like keys to moments and emotions and experiences, they are visual as well, which is wonderful, because visualization is something that some people find really hard, but it's also something that really impacts on your manifestation techniques, on your ability to manifest successfully. So using the tarot can have incredible results. I also love it because you can layer it with all kinds of other spells, and that's really the power, I think, of the tarot in Spellcraft, because it acts just like other tools, like crystals, like oils, like herbs, like candles, like water, like all the elements, like anything that you might want to use for spell work. This is like another tool to your bow. So what I would also advise as well on a practical level is that you have a deck that you dedicate to spellcraft that you don't use for divination, because you might end up getting candle wax or oils or herbs or whatever, like water or something near and on your tarot deck. You don't want it to ruin. I mean, there's no way I'd ever use this deck for spell work. Whenever I've used tarot for spell work, I've always used my original Waite tarot pack, which is the one that's sort of a blue box with a little emblem on the front, and it's got very yellow toned cards, rather than my Centennial, which is my general reading deck day to day, and then this is just a really special deck. So you can choose which one you want to use, but I would advise that you have a separate deck. A really simple way that you can manifest using tarot cards is to use them within a vision board, or create a vision board solely with tarot cards, and you can almost arrange them like a tableau on a board, or you can pick and choose several cards that speak to your intention and fit them into your intention board. So if you are already creating a vision board, I like to do this around the start of Aries season, because it feels like that momentum is there. So I very much like to do that then, and pretty much everything manifests on those boards. It's got that energy behind it. But again, as with all spells, you need to believe it. If you're speaking words of intention and power, you want to be speaking them in the present tense as if they already are yours, because they are. So instead of saying or writing something like, I will get the promotion, you would write, I have been promoted and I am now earning however much. So, you know, obviously you refine that, whatever your intention is. But I find it is really powerful to speak it as if it's already here, as if you already have it, and to sort of write it almost in a diary format. So you may or may not be writing or speaking words of intention if you're creating a vision board, but it's just something to bear in mind, that you want to have absolute certainty that this is yours, that this is for you, that it's already yours. It's already yours, so of course it's yours. You just want to have absolute certainty that it's already yours. Another thing that I know is really popular that a lot of people do is meditation with or pathworking with a tarot card. Now, some people might not consider this to be spell work so much, and I think it's sort of somewhere on the borderline, but it is a really beautiful thing to be able to step into a card. And I think a lot of tarot spells will involve some form of pathworking, because it is really powerful to step into a world and observe it, be part of that world, and learn lessons from the characters within that world, or even to embody that card or the characters within that card. So I think that's a really powerful exercise, but for that you really need some time, maybe candles, you need to set up your meditative seat. I think you need to be practiced at meditation, because it can take a while to get in, and if you don't have something guiding you. But one thing you could do perhaps is to cleanse and set your sacred space, then maybe do a guided meditation so you're more in that space, and then get to work with whatever card and have your card ready, or your cards if you're using several, and go into it like that, so you're setting the tone for yourself and you're getting yourself into that state. Other things that you could use is like drumming beats or vibrational music, like different hertz music on YouTube. You could use a playlist or some meditative music that you can purchase from iTunes or Spotify, whatever works for you to get you into a kind of trance state, and then step into the card and literally literally all you have to do is visualize yourself stepping into the frame of that card. Or you can close your eyes, get into a meditative state and visualize yourself kind of crossing some kind of border. Some people hedge cross, some people go through doorways, some people go inside trees, some people go down steps, some people go up steps, some people go through paths in the woodlands. There are lots of different ways that you can get yourself into a space. I quite like being in darkness, being like absorbed into a kind of dark vacuum space that holds you, and then feeling yourself being sort of tugged through. But yeah, feel yourself being pulled through the frame of the card and step into the card. And that's a really, really beautiful thing, because you can then experience the card, and then when you come out you can take note of whatever it is that you've experienced, whatever you've learned, and also having like a really, really clear intention again before you go in. So if you've got a question you want guidance about, you can write that down first. If you have a question and if you have an intention, you can literally step into that card and turn it into whatever it is you want to manifest. So you could be stepping into that card. Say you're stepping into the Six of Wands, for instance, and this may be, you know, the reception you get after a performance. If you are a musician or an actor or some kind of performer and you want to see yourself, you know, doing really well in a particular performance, or if you're public speaking and you want to be praised for your efforts at work or whatever field this is, you know, say you just want celebration, you want to be recognized for your hard work, you want to feel that achievement has been reached and is being recognized, and you can step into this card and literally turn it into your reality. Allow what it is you are trying to manifest to play out and craft your intention into reality in that way using the card. If, for instance, you wanted to do that and you found that some of the cards, they don't really speak to you because obviously they're in a different time and space, you could choose a deck that's more modern, perhaps the Modern Witch or the Everyday Enchantment Tarot. I'm blanking, but there are lots and lots of different decks that are more modern that you could step into. The Light Seers, for instance, step into those cards, and that might be a little bit easier if you're going that route. Another thing you could do is to embody the card, and I know some people within our community do this. I've seen several videos where people dress up like certain characters within certain cards, or are inspired to do makeup, glamour, looks and routines by certain cards, and I think that's really, really beautiful, really powerful, really profound. And just by pulling a card in the morning, you can have that card out, dress like a character within the card, do your makeup, your beauty or wellness routine inspired by that card, and live the card throughout your day, as it were. If you want to embody, for instance, the joy of the Three of Cups, you can see yourself becoming one of those characters and literally living your day as if you were in that card, and that card is like a snapshot of the day, you know, but what happened before, what happened after. And so, you know, you've got an event coming up with your closest friends, and you see yourself with your friends drinking, laughing, dancing, singing, having the most wonderful time. And what is your day like up until that point, and what is it like afterwards, and how do you feel in your body? And make that come alive, make that become your experience. And that is really, really potent just for, you know, living your best life. And, you know, you might want to do something like that if there's something on your mind that's been kind of worrying you, bringing you down, or you've recently been through a breakup or something and you just want to have some time and space that's outside of what you've been going through, that is separate for you, and so you can enjoy your time with your friends. And I think that, you know, we've all been through a lot in the last few years, there's just no denying that. And sometimes, you know, stepping into a character, that can be really, really beautiful for, you know, catharsis. And catharsis, I don't think necessarily has to be about purging your feelings through a character. It can be about escapism and becoming a character. That's why people love books. That's why we love books and films so much, isn't it? I mean, it's just the ultimate escape. And, you know, escapism, when taken to extreme, can be unhealthy, but when it is for self-care and in that way, it can be, yeah, really, really powerful and profound. That's just one example, and I've waffled on way too much about that example. So if you were to embody one of those characters within that card, what would your mannerisms be? How would you speak? How would you walk? How would you hold yourself? How would your makeup be done? And how would you be dressed? You know, these are all the things you can consider. And what would be the first thing you'd do when you got out of bed? And how would you move through the world? And how would you speak to people? What would be the kind of phrases that you'd say? And what thoughts would be going through your mind? You know, how would you be talking to yourself in your thoughts? So these are things to consider. You can also do this with jewellery. I love wearing jewellery, and I charm all of my jewellery for protection and for various different intents, and I wear them For those reasons, I cleanse them and re-consecrate them and etc. when I feel I need to, but they are, you know, very personal for me. I don't actually have any jewellery that is tarot themed, but if you wanted to, say, you know, open up your clairs, connect more with spiritual realms, or really channel your intuition, you might want to get a necklace with a little High Priestess card. There are lots of these jewellers that make jewellery like that on Etsy and such, or, you know, you can get little earrings. I'm sure that some of you already have kinds of jewellery like that. I don't have anything like that, but that is a really nice way that you could do it as well, by literally wearing the card on your body. And of course you could literally just put the card in your pocket, or, you know, if you've got a mini deck, you could put a little card in bra, carry it with you, and it's like a little reminder. And again, like, I think the simplest way that you could use tarot in your spellcraft is to pull the card out in the morning and to have it with you in your space, and set it somewhere where you're going to see it, where you're going to walk past it a lot. Or even if you've got several decks, you could put the same card in every room so that you're seeing it everywhere you go, and it's just a reminder, a constant reminder, and it's like drip, drip, drip. It is working on your subconscious all the time, reminding you of your intention and supporting you to manifest it. One of my favourite things to do with tarot is to use a tarot card like a petition. So imagine it is your petition that you have written out. You can also use petitions with them, so you could write a petition and layer cards on top, or have one card that maybe you want to release something, have the petition or a bay leaf, for instance, and then layer another card on top, and then place a crystal on top for like amplifying those intentions, whatever it may be, or healing, or for absorbing any negative energy from whatever it is you're banishing. Like, whatever your intention is, you'll choose your crystal accordingly. If you know, work with crystals, you can layer cards in that way, and that's really, really beautiful way to use cards as well. So if you do this, I definitely like to push my energy and blow my energy and speak my intentions into the card, almost like I would with herbs or crystals, fully energetically pushing my intention into the card and telling the card what I want to bring about and how I want the card to work for me, in a way, without being rude, of course, rude to the card. But yeah, literally giving instruction to the card about what we are working together to bring into manifest. And then along those lines, you can use other elements. You could use acorns or pine cones or plants or blossoms that you foraged for. You could layer a candle on top, and then, you know, you can have your candle anointed and herbs around the candle, and then watch it burn down, meditate on that. If there's something you want to heal, you could lay the card down and then place a bowl of water with healing and self-loving herbs on top. You could place a card for growth beneath a plant that you are really, really working to cultivate. You know, so I would place like the Empress beneath a plant, for instance, to support its growth and nurture it if, you know, I was worried about it surviving, because sometimes that is a problem. You could use a scrying mirror or a crystal ball to scry with on top of or next to your card to visualize your manifestation or to gain guidance and insight. Again, some people will probably say that's just divination, but I still feel like it's partly spell work if you've got an intention. Again, as I said, you can utilize herbs and crystals and water and all manner of other tools that you would use. So if you have a candle, you know, you can anoint it with oils and herbs, etc., or powders, whatever you use in your practice, as you normally would. I also really, really like the intentional placement of cards. So if you have a scenario that you want to play out, you can place the cards in the order of the scenario that as you see it playing out, and really spend time meditating and maybe path work through each card, as we talked about before, but going from card to card and allowing yourself to immerse yourself in that story, in that world, and allowing it to become yours, so that literally your situation plays out exactly as you want it to and manifests in reality. Intentional placement of cards can also be, as I said before, layering cards on top of one another if you're trying to release something or bring something through, allow truth to come through, for instance. If you want to reverse the effects of something, you can literally take a card and turn it upside down. and spend time meditating. I would spend time with each process of that and really ritualize the process of reversing. And you can then use something like a reversal oil and a candle as well to amplify it. You could use a petition as well, a bay leaf, burn a bay leaf alongside. Layer your spells as you see fit, as you feel into it. You know, I think intuitive spell work is so powerful. It's the most powerful kind of spell work you can do. You know, asking someone else to do a spell for you is never going to be as powerful as doing the research, doing the work yourself, and feeling into it and just going with it and doing the spell as it's right for you. So I don't think I've ever performed a spell in a spell book before. I think I have only ever performed a spell out of a book when I was brand new. When I was 11 or 12, I know I performed some Wiccan rituals straight out of a book for SBATs, and I think I may have done a stop a bully spell with a little incantation when I was at school as well. I probably did a love spell as well, or one or two. I probably did a few spells during my teens that were straight from books, but I started to craft my own. I definitely learned quickly that it was way more powerful for me to craft my own. And so from quite a young age, my spell work became very intuitive. And so even now, I love spell books. I think they're great for ideas, but I would only ever really get ideas from them. And even if I used part of the spell, I would always write my own incantation, create my own oil, or use an oil I already have that I've made previously, or I would switch up the ingredients if I didn't have herbs. But I hardly ever use spell books now, to be honest with you, because I just write my own spells for whatever I need. I find that when I cast spells, it's for very specific, so specific things. There isn't really ever a spell in the book that could give me the result I wanted, because it is so tailored to my needs and to my situation. So I think intuitive spell work is the way forward, 100%. Choose the tools that work for you, that have the correspondences that work for you. Obviously, you know, there is collective resonance around certain herbs for certain uses. So, you know, that has power and intention behind it. Coming from an animist perspective as well, the herbs as well, they have their own life force energy, I believe. And so they do know what they're doing in a sense. But, you know, if you also experience a certain plant or a certain tree or a certain flower or something in another way or a color, then use whatever works for you, whatever correspondences, you know, you intuitively gather together. Another way you can intentionally place your cards is to place a card on its side. If you are trying to get from A to B, it can be like a bridge between. You can also work with significator cards, and there's a lot of scope for working with significator cards within tarot spells, because you can literally bring yourself closer to others, to other people. Literally choose a significator card for yourself and for the other person, whatever, you know, suits best. And I think you should get to know your court cards for that, because they are really great for this kind of work. But you don't have to choose a court card as a significator, but it's just really nice because they have their own sort of unique personalities, and you can literally day by day bring your cards closer together if you're trying to build a relationship, a connection with someone. So choose a significator card for yourself and for the other person in question, or the other parties in question, and you can literally bring the cards together over a period of 3 days or 7 days or 5 days, however long works for you. If you're using numerology, you can incorporate that. Candle work, again, you could use a 7-day candle or something like that, or spend several minutes each day with the cards and moving the cards together to bring connection closer, or to build a business partnership. Maybe it's not always just about love. You can also do cord cutting rituals this way, by literally tying some cord around yourself and another person to symbolize whatever connection or tie you had to this person, and then severing it in a ritualistic way. And for that, again, you want to have your ritual space set up. You might want to incorporate other elements into that ritual, and that would be the spell part of the ritual. And again, intention is really important, and of course your energy, etc., for the spell. So just bear that in mind with everything I'm saying. As I said at the beginning, it is kind of like intrinsic with all of the spells, that you always have those elements in place, that basic energy, grounding, centering, cleansing, protection, grounding, centering energy, etc. So with significator cards, for instance, you might wish to create a charm bag using a tarot card, which is lovely as long as you know you don't mind sort of potentially messing up the corners. It might be nice to have a mini deck for that kind of thing, so you can slip them in, or to use charms. I've never really cast charms with my tarot readings, although I know some people do. But if you have a collection of charms, and charms that represent each card. You could put some of those in a charm bag as well, or use them with tarot readings, use them within spells, etc. You can place cards on your ancestral altar to show honor and reverence, which is really, really beautiful. You can take a spiritual bath whilst meditating on a card. That's lovely to do as well. I discussed the use of bay leaves and petitions with the tarot cards. That's a wonderful way to use them as well. If you are artistically inclined, you may wish to draw your own card and maybe draw yourself as the figure in the card and whatever it is you see playing out as the figure in the card, if that makes any sense. It depends how artistic you are. Or you may wish to colour with intention and perhaps write your intentions within the colouring. So you can get these colouring books that are of the cards and then you just colour them in, adult colouring books. So you could write intentions around the card as well. Either you colour over those or leave them so you can see them, whatever works for you. One thing that I think is really, really powerful is to create like a special sigil for yourself around a card. So take specific symbolism that jumps out at you from the card and literally create an intuitive sigil. I would recommend Laura Tempest-Sackruff's Sigil Witchery book for learning how to create intuitive sigils, because the traditional sigil making process is a lot more structured and doesn't really allow for that kind of freedom of expression. And so I think that Laura Tempest-Sackruff's approach is what you might want to look into if you are new to that kind of thing. But definitely, yeah, create a sigil that works for you, that is reminiscent of that, and then you can work that into other areas of your magic. You can use an eyeliner pencil to draw it on your person. You could draw it on a piece of paper and put it into your shoe. You can draw with your finger or with a spoon into food, into drinks. You can stir your intention, you can mark it onto a drinking bottle. Literally, the world is your oyster when it comes to sigils. So I think it's really powerful to use tarot to create sigils. You can also meditate on a particular symbol within a card and bring that symbol into your real life. So one thing that stands out for me is a pentacle. So a lot of witchy inclined people will probably have pentacles. I have a lovely wooden pentacle, and I always think, of course, of the Ace of Pentacles, the Ace of Coins. So if you wanted to manifest that in your life, you can literally put that in a powerful position on your altar space, and even maybe have the card there as well. Meditate on it, work with it, and work intentions into it that way, utilizing prayer, utilizing candles, spells, etc. All the things that we've talked about already. So you could also layer with a spell bottle that you create alongside the card. So have the card with you when you're creating the spell bottle. You could use candles as well. Put all your energy into it and then layer the spell bottle on top of the card, or the card on top of the spell bottle, depending on whatever works for you. If it's like a massive spell jar, you could put it on top or even in front of, and leave that on your altar to allow the spell to come to fruition. I think with a lot of these it is definitely about layering tarot cards with other tools within your spell work, or using the card alone and having a very specific intention, and your intention being the key, and being clear on that, and believing in your own capacity and ability to be able to manifest it, and believing that it's already yours is really, really important for manifestation. If there is a test, if you are studying for an exam, if you're a student of something, you want to amplify your ability to study or your success, you could slip a card into a text that you're working on or use it as a bookmark. I'm not a university student anymore, but at the moment I am studying to develop my craft, so I picked the Eight of Pentacles for this. So literally studying literature around the occult, around witchcraft, etc., and you know, using cards in that way. I always use the extra cards in tarot decks as little bookmarks, and I think it's just a really, really clever way. And in fact, you could incorporate some sigil witchery into that as well, or some intention setting by writing your intention on that piece of card, as long as you know you don't want to use it again, or writing your little sigil on the card as well. So there's just so many different ways that you can use tarot in your practice, and it doesn't necessarily always involve a card, but it sometimes involves the symbolism around a card. I think it's really nice to play and be inspired by the cards and get guidance from them. Another idea that I really, really like is to write a letter for guidance and clarity to a member of the court. So you could choose the Queen of Cups, for instance, if you are trying to get in touch with your emotions, or to be able to express your emotions more freely if you're struggling, or if you're struggling with an emotional event or turmoil. And then potentially you might want to write yourself a letter back from that tarot card, what would they have to say to you? What would their wisdom be? It's a really, really powerful exercise. I think some people might say this isn't so much a spell, but I think you can make it a spell if you have an intention behind it. So it may just be an exercise in learning about the court cards, which is perfectly valid. So it may just be an exercise for you, but if you actually have a really specific intent, then it turns into a spell. So that's the difference there. And I think really, really powerful work. Another thing you could do if you wanted to use your dreams to manifest. If you lucid dream, if this is something that you practice, you might wish to use flying ointment as well and incorporate that, but you could set an intention for your dream time, make sure you're protected, and then meditate with the card, and then lay the card beneath your pillow as you sleep. Again, it has to be one that you're not worried about it coming out a bit rumpled or a bit bent afterwards, because, you know, sleeping on it, tossing and turning, you may rumple it. But, you know, even if you go into the dream and you're not able to lucid dream within that dream, or even if your dream seems to have nothing of significance, do write down whatever it is you can remember from the dream in your dream journal. Even if it's actually not from the dream, but it's just like, oh, I felt so itchy as I was falling asleep and it was really uncomfortable. Even if that's all you can remember, or all you can remember is like a pale blue colour, just write that down. Because the more and more you get used to writing down what happens in your dreams, or what you can remember from your dreams, the more and more your brain will prompt you to recall what happens in your dreams, and then you'll be able to remember more, and you can literally glean insight and be able to manifest these things. And then you can teach yourself how to lucid dream. And if you're already proficient at lucid dreaming, this is something that might come really naturally to you. So you might have a dream where you're sort of in the situation but not quite, but you're able to find a door or a way through a window or portal or something to shift yourself from where you are into the situation that you want, and then play it out exactly as you want it to. And I think that's so, so clever. Or you might wish to go back to a situation that actually happened in real life and reenact it in your dreams. Or you might wish to do this outside of your dreams as well, so you don't have to, you could reenact it through meditation, through trance. You could reenact it in that way as well, or reenact it through journaling. You could literally journal it out as you wish it had happened as well, but it doesn't have to be something you want to happen. It could be something that you want to change the effects of. So if you had an argument with someone, if you want to rewrite the situation, you can do that in journal form, in a book. You could do that within your dreams, you could do that within meditation. So if you are proficient at lucid dreaming, again, this is something you can do. But again, have a clear intention of what you want to do. Or you might wish to go into the dream to glean guidance from someone. And it might be that you want to glean guidance from the King of Swords about something specific, that like a critical point, like something really, really important, and, you know, something mentally challenging. You need some clear advice. So you might wish to take yourself to meet the King of Swords to glean some guidance. And again, write down whatever it is you can remember. It might seem really, really strange and abstract and not related at all, but it will have some significance, and it might only come into light like a few weeks later, or maybe a month or so later, or it might come to light when a similar theme pops up in your life, or when you see that person or that group of people again that this was involving, whatever the situation was. You know, it might be that it takes a while for it to become clear. But I would always recommend as well writing down whatever your spells and rituals are and how you feel during them. You know, obviously your intentions and etc. Write all of those things down, and everything you used, everything you did, how you felt throughout, how you felt afterwards, and then anything you noticed, any reflections over the next few weeks or months, or whenever you notice the difference, go back to that entry and input the difference, the changes that you see. And that's really, really powerful as well, because then you can start to track your spell work and start to refine it. So yeah, this isn't just about tarot, this is about working with tarot in your spell work. So definitely there's lots of stuff that I'm talking about that is for all kinds of spell work, not just tarot spell work, but it's really important to mention for working with tarot in your spells as well. Along this theme of lucid dreaming and working astrally, I do like to use a tarot deck in my astral altar space. So I have several sacred spaces in the astral realm that I go to, and within those spaces I have like altar spaces, and I have a tarot deck in those places as well. I specifically like to set up my space and go in there and draw a card before I do any other work in that space astrally, so that I can again glean some insight. And usually whatever card I pull has something very, very significantly aligned with whatever ends up coming up or whatever transpires, whatever guidance I get, whoever visits during that session, whatever work I do usually is very much related to the cards. So I think that's a really, really powerful way to work with the tarot as well, is to do it astrally. Again, if you do not work astrally, that's something for another video, it's another topic, but if that's something that you do in your practice, then that's a really, really nice way that you can bring tarot into your magical practice in the astral realm. Also though, if you are, you know, working a little bit in secret, which I would never recommend anyone does, like if it's unsafe for them to do so, but if you are sort of doing a lot of work astrally because you're not able to do so much physically in the physical realm, I think it's a really, really powerful way to work with tarot. And yes, some people might say it's not valid or valid spell work, but for me it's really, really powerful, and I've had some really, really profound shifts and personal changes as a result of practicing some of these techniques and spells and rituals with tarot and without tarot as well. You know, as I said before, a lot of these techniques and aspects of spell work that I'm talking about here relate to all kinds of spell work. Finally, I did want to talk about books. There is a book that I have not been able to get my hands on that some people I know within the community do have. I think it's by Christine Jette. It's called Tarot Spells, I believe, and that I think is out of print here at the moment, or it was the last time I looked. But I've been trying to get my hands on that book for several years. But the book I do have is a very popular one. This is 365 Tarot Spells by Sasha Graham, who I love. I really love Sasha Graham's work. Sasha Graham, I believe, has also written the Llewellyn Complete Guide to the Rider-Waite-Smith Tarot Deck book, which is again like quite a big tome. I don't have that book, but I believe it's probably a pretty good starting place if you are new to tarot. There is also a Llewellyn's Complete Guide of Tarot in general that's written by a different author, but I believe that Sasha Graham's book is literally specifically for the Rider-Waite-Smith Tarot. So that could be a really, really powerful place to start if you're new to tarot. But for this book, I really like this book because anyone could use the spells within this book. It works with all kinds of other correspondences. There are all kinds of different spells in here. There's spells utilizing visualization and meditation, as well as, again, layering with other spell tools and ingredients. So it's got so many wonderful ideas. So there is a spell here, for instance, to stop nasty gossip. You need the 8 of Swords, a Sharpie, a dried corn cob, and a piece of string. So here you go. So you can get some really, really great ideas here about how to incorporate tarot into your spellcrafting practice, and, you know, use your tarot deck more. If perhaps, you know, you only use the tarot every couple of weeks to do a reading, but it's something that you love, why not use it more in your spellcraft practice if that's a practice that you do have? Or if, you know, you have something specific that you want to manifest or want to sort out for yourself, this is a great book to start with. The way it's structured, it goes through the year, so each spell has a different date. But if you're looking for a particular type of spell, at the back you have a fantastic index of spells here. So you can search for whatever it is that you're trying to achieve: banishing spells, career and work, chakra opening spells, creativity spells, education spells, family, house and home spells, finance and money matters, general spells, so the Fool's Fresh Start spell, fairy tale magic spells, love spells, there's a lot of love spells, personal power spells, there's a lot of those. There's rituals for each of the tarot cards, so this is really, really powerful for getting to know your deck more. A lunar ritual to connect with your tarot deck. So this is a lovely, lovely book, and there is one spell that I thought was fantastic in this book, and that is utilizing the 8 of Wands to send energy to someone. And I thought that's so fun and so clever, and so I definitely want to try to do that. I do work with Reiki in my practice, but to send energy to someone who is maybe just a little bit depleted, I would always like to make sure they kind of know. So if it was like a friend or a family member, I'd kind of ask them, is it okay if I send you a little bit of like energy boost or like some loving energy, you know, to like just give you some love and comfort right now, like if they're feeling down. But I think that's such a clever idea, to use the energy within the tarot deck visually to send your energy to someone, gift them some of your own energy. I think that's really, really beautiful. So I wanted to share that because I thought that was so clever, and this is just full of ideas, full of fantastic inspiration. It's a wonderful place to start, and even if you are someone like me who does not really follow spells, I've dipped in and out of this book to get ideas and to find inspiration, and I think it's fantastic. So glad that Sasha Graham included this part at the back with the different kinds of spells, because you can literally find a spell for whatever your situation is, or a spell that's similar. So you might find that none of the spells really match up to your intention, what you want to manifest, just as I said with how I experience it really, but something similar, and there's a way that you can use it, and you might want to then layer other things like oils or herbs, crystals, candles, sigils, whatever floats your boat. You might want to do some kitchen witchery. I love the idea of like baking bread and then drawing a pentacle on top, it being like your Ace of Pentacles bread, and then like blessing it and consecrating it and then eating it, and it's like all of the potential for abundance and prosperity is just baked right into that bread because you've set the intention, you've been working with that card, you know, have that card in your kitchen as you bake. You know, there's so many different ways that you can work with tarot and tarot symbolism in your practice, and I hope that some of these ideas have been inspiring to you, and if you've never thought about this, that, you know, maybe you'll give it a try. Let me know if you do. Tag me on Instagram or leave me a comment below if you have tried any of these in your practice, if you have any other ideas, because these are just some of my ideas. So the world is your oyster, so I'm sure that some people have some amazing ideas that I've not even thought of, so please leave them below if you do, and then other people can get more ideas and we can just share them as a community. Speaking of which, I have a Patreon. I'm hoping to do more tiers, as I said before, to create more. It's so wonderful to have this community. I'm so grateful for all the likes, the shares, the comments, the engagements, for me to be able to continue to create free content that is educational as well as experiential here on YouTube. It really supports me to be able to do that. If you would like to come over and support me, I would be so grateful. If Patreon isn't for you, I also have an Instagram and a TikTok that you can go over, follow me there, support me. I share tarot spreads for the new and full moon on Instagram and other witchy, tarot and astrological related content, which is really fun. TikTok as well. I also have a buy me a coffee page if you want to just make a small donation so I can buy a coffee. That's also there, and a direct PayPal if that is something you'd rather do as well. So there are multiple ways to support me, and I am ever grateful as always to everyone who engages with the content and to who supports. It means the world to me, so thank you. I want to be able to create more content for you that you want to see, so if you have suggestions for videos that you'd like to see, do let me know. I love to hear from you. Leave me a comment below or send me a message on Instagram. I have a link tree in my bio now with all of my links and such, so it's easier to sort of find certain things. If you've been watching and enjoying my channel and you're not yet subscribed, do subscribe, and while you're at it, don't forget to hit the bell notification, because that's how YouTube will let you know when I create and upload videos just like this. If you made it to the end of the video, please do leave me a little moon emoji, any of the moons, in the comments box below. It's really nice to see. And with all that said, thank you again so much for joining me. I hope this has been of value and it's been enjoyable for you. As always, I hope you stay well and safe, and I look forward to seeing you in another video really soon. Take care. Bye. Mwah.